You hear the name Rolls-Royce, and what comes to mind? Ultimate luxury, right? A car so perfect, so exclusive, it's the stuff of dreams for the world's wealthiest people. But what if I told you that this absolute icon of wealth was created by a boy who grew up in poverty, working as a child laborer? Well, this is that unbelievable story of how perfection was forged by poverty.
It's such a stark contrast, isn't it? On one side, you have the brand we all know today, this symbol of untouchable status and perfection. And on the other, you have the founder's reality, a life that started with literally nothing. That massive gap between the two, well, that's the engine that drives this entire story. So let's start at the beginning, with the underdog himself, Henry Royce. His journey began in, well, about the toughest circumstances you can imagine.
I mean, you have to understand just how relentless the hardship was for him. Born in 1863, Henry Royce's life went downhill and fast. When he was just 4 years old, his father's business failed and the family lost everything. By age 9, his father had passed away and little Henry was out on the streets delivering newspapers just to help the family survive. His future, well, it didn't look like much of anything.
But then, at age 14, a turning point. An aunt saw something in him, some kind of spark, and helped get him an apprenticeship. With that one shot, Royce just threw himself into it. He worked day and night, devouring books, soaking up everything he could. This wasn't just about learning a job. Nope, he was building the very foundation of his genius, mastering skills that would completely define his future.
And he put that knowledge to work right away. At just 21, with only 20 pounds in his pocket, he started his own electrical engineering company. And the growth was just staggering. By 1900, his company was pulling in sales of 20,000 pounds. He'd made it. But just as things were looking amazing, a huge wave of foreign competition came in and nearly wiped him out completely. All that stress from his failing business, it just destroyed his health. His doctor gave him some pretty simple advice. You need to get some fresh air. So, Royce bought a car. And this one decision, born out of a moment of total crisis, would end up changing everything. So, here's the question. What happens when a guy who is obsessed with quality buys a total piece of junk? Because the car he bought, a French-made Decaville, was an absolute disaster. It was noisy, the brakes were awful, and it was constantly overheating. For a perfectionist engineer like Henry Royce, this wasn't just some minor inconvenience, it was a personal insult.
And this is where you really see how his mind worked. Royce didn't just complain about it. He started by trying to make little fixes here and there. But his standards were so impossibly high, he quickly realized the only real solution was to redesign the entire car from the ground up. And in 1904, that's exactly what he did, building his first 10-horsepower two-cylinder car. It was quieter, lighter, and way more reliable than anything else out there.
Okay, so Royce had built this world-class car, but he had one major problem. He had no idea how to sell it to the world. And this is where the second hero of our story comes into the picture. A man who was, in every way, Royce's complete opposite. On one side, you have Henry Royce, the brilliant, meticulous, and kinda shy engineer. And on the other, you've got Charles Rolls, a wealthy, passionate race car driver and a born salesman who already owned a successful business selling high-end cars. It was the perfect match. Royce could build perfection, Rolls knew how to make the world want it. When Rolls saw Royce's car and met the man who built it, he just knew. He instantly got it. He famously told his business partner, "I have found the world's greatest engineer." That meeting was the spark, and by March of 1906, Rolls-Royce Limited was officially born. With their partnership official, they set out to do one thing and one thing only: build the best car in the world. Their success would become the stuff of legend, but it would also be shadowed by an immense amount of tragedy. Late in 1906, they launched the car that would define their entire legacy. A 6-cylinder model painted a striking silver. It was so impossibly quiet and smooth for its time, it earned the perfect name, the Silver Ghost. But here's the thing, they didn't just claim it was the best, they set out to prove it. They sent the Silver Ghost on a grueling 24,000-kilometer non-stop endurance trial. And incredibly, the car completed the entire journey without a single fault. That one test instantly cemented its reputation for being absolutely bulletproof. And as for smoothness, they came up with the legendary whisper test. It was a brilliant piece of marketing. They would balance a coin on its edge on the car's hood, start the engine, and the coin wouldn't fall over. It was this incredible, simple demonstration that proved just how refined their engineering really was.
But just as the company reached the absolute pinnacle of its success, disaster struck. In 1910, Charles Rolls, who was a passionate aviator, died in a plane crash. He was only 32 years old. Then just 1 year later, Henry Royce was diagnosed with cancer and was told he only had a few months to live. The company's future seemed destined to die right alongside its founder.
But Royce miraculously recovered, and it's a good thing he did, because an even bigger threat was looming: World War I. The market for luxury cars vanished overnight. Rolls-Royce was on the brink of collapse. They had to pivot, or they would perish. And what a pivot it was. In an extraordinary move, they turned their luxury car into a weapon of war. The chassis of the Silver Ghost were so strong, they were able to bolt on 8mm thick armor plates, add revolving machine gun turrets, and create some of the most reliable armored cars of the entire war. Its smooth ride also made it the perfect vehicle for ambulances, saving thousands of lives on the battlefield. And they didn't stop there. Royce saw that Britain's Air Force was relying on French engines, so he literally taught himself aero engine design. Starting in 1915, the company began producing a series of powerful, incredibly reliable engines, like the Eagle and the Falcon, that gave the Allied forces a critical advantage in the skies and became a huge part of their business for decades. After the war, Rolls-Royce emerged stronger than ever before. Henry Royce would spend the rest of his life making sure that his personal philosophy of perfection was embedded in every single thing the company ever did.
The post-war years were just a whirlwind of innovation and growth. In 1925, they launched the legendary Phantom to replace the aging Silver Ghost. In 1931, they actually bought their main rival, Bentley. And Sir Henry Royce oversaw all of this, working tirelessly until he passed away in 1933 at the age of 70. Part of that legacy is the iconic little statue that sits on the hood of every car. Apparently, Royce was getting annoyed that owners were putting all these ugly mascots on his beautiful machines, so he commissioned an official one, the Spirit of Ecstasy, a symbol of grace, speed, and perfection that just perfectly captured the brand's whole ethos. And you know what? That DNA lives on. While the company is now owned by BMW, every single car that rolls off the line is still built on that exact same foundation. The relentless perfectionism of its founder, the iconic symbol he commissioned, and the century of heritage that followed. When you really think about it, this whole story started with a poor boy who just refused to accept mediocrity in anything. And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Is that relentless, uncompromising pursuit of perfection the ultimate engine for success?